Hello and welcome to the INDYCAR Debrief, where we're taking you behind the scenes of the 2021 NTT INDYCAR Series and helping you make your picks for INDYCAR Series Fantasy Challenge driven by Firestone. Be sure to sign up at fantasy.indycar.com or via the INDYCAR app. I'm Jen Horsey here with co-hosts INDYCAR driver Conor Daly and Racer Magazine's Lawrence Foster. Hi, guys.
Hello.
How you doing?
So this week we're going to look ahead to an exciting doubleheader in Detroit, and we're going to catch up with Jack Harvey, who may just be due for a breakout weekend. But before we get to that, let's take a look back at a fantastic 105th running of the Indy 500. So Conor, we're going to start with you. Fantastic performance. You led 40 laps until a tire fell out of the sky on you. And like, anything can happen in IndyCar, but that's some next level weird luck that happened there. So let's take a look at some highlights. Highs first.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was obviously quite an exciting moment for me, and almost somewhat unexpected. Going from mid-pack to where I was to the front, it's actually way easier to pass at the front. And so I kind of just rocketed to the lead, and I was like, oh, well, I guess that's going to happen. And it was much easier than I expected it to be. So I enjoy driving at the front much more. Like the guys up there, you know, my teammate, having him up there was great with Renus, and Colton I obviously know very, very well. So having those guys up there was cool. And then they just all decided to save fuel behind me for a long time. But someone had to lead. So, you know, I was happy to do that. And then, yeah, coming back to take the lead again after the round of pit stops was actually more of a strategic move for Renus, because Renus didn't have as much fuel as I did. So we kind of helped our teammate there make some things happen. But yeah, it was great. I mean, you know what, looking at the positives, that's the only thing you can do, really. There's a lot of things that we can be proud of. We knew we had a great race car, and you know, I kept talking about it, and I'm glad we got an opportunity to show it for sure, because the team did such a great job all month of May long. But yeah, we had to limp home with a wounded vehicle, sadly.
Well, yeah, let's see what precipitated that. Let's go on board here with Graham Rahal and see what happens as he loses a wheel. So yeah, I mean, this guy, and what that look like to you?
Well, I mean, there's nothing he could do, obviously. That's like a really scary situation for him. I'm glad that he's okay, you know what I mean? Because if there was a car going by there, you know, kind of brings back like Zanardi vibes, which is really scary. So, I'm glad he was good. But yeah, I mean, it's racing. I mean, stuff happens. There's so much that's out of our control. And you know, when that crash was happening, when he hits the wall and everything explodes, a lot of smoke, a lot of debris, a lot of stuff flying, and we're kind of going to the inside, following the cars in front of me. And then yeah, I never saw the tire coming. Never saw it. We have a much narrower range of view from what the TV sees, obviously, and what our onboard camera sees as well. So yeah, it was just one of those things that at the very last second that I saw it, it was like a massive slap in the face, and it was a pretty aggressive hit. But the fact that it didn't break anything on the steering kind of gave me an initial feel of like, oh, maybe we're okay here. But it turns out, you know, we had to make a gamble. It was basically, do we pit for a new wing, or do we stay out and hope that it's okay? And honestly, with the track position that we had made up already, we had to take the gamble. I mean, there was no point in losing, you know, all the positions that we gained, essentially going back to last, and hoping that we could make our way through with strategy again and pit stops. So you're screwed if you do, screwed if you don't, type of a thing. And you know, we were just a victim, and we tried to make the best of it. And I think we did, honestly. Like, wheel and rear wing out of it every stop, made the car very difficult to drive, but we had to do our best. And you know, I appreciate the team working with me for sure.
It was a fantastic performance, and just like an amazingly weird piece of luck. You know, we saw that last shot where there's literally a tire mark right on your nose cone. Like, you punted a tire. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know where it landed too. I'd love to see where it landed, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure where it ended up.
So great effort, fantastic drive. Congrats for leading 40 laps. I feel like you were the story of the race, but Lawrence, why don't you walk us through some of the other highlights from the 500?
Well, the other story of the race, obviously, apart from Conor, Helio Castroneves' his fourth win, and it turned out such a clean, fast race as well. No more cautions after the Graham Rahal boiled down to a duel between Alex Palou and Helio Castroneves, the vet against the up-and-coming rising star. This is the final pass here by Helio. 2 laps to go. He knows there's traffic ahead, and he makes his move a lap earlier than intended, but makes it stick. And it was a show of steely nerves in that last final lap as well. Helio takes his 4th win, and history is made.
I think the saddest part about that, honestly, though, is the fact that poor Alex would have had a shot at getting a run at Helio to the checkered flag, like to have almost a photo finish. But when we see those traffic, those cars in front, if you get 3 or 4 more cars in front of you, there is no passing. And that's just sadly what would happen. I mean, Helio knew that. I think Helio is a very wise gentleman, and he could see that coming. I'm sure his team was telling him that. And if you're the leader at that point and you get stuck in traffic, it's going to take a heck of a run from the guy behind you to try and make a run. And that's what I saw there. Like, poor Alex, like, he had a great car, but there's only so much you can do in that dirty air out of turn 4. I mean, all of us were trying it all day to try and orchestrate runs in traffic, and it was really, really difficult. So Helio played it exactly how he needed to play it, and I obviously saw, how good his car was early on in the race after being around him, and they just made all the right moves. And in the end, like, the guy who has the best day wins. And I think Helio for sure had it, and he made all the right decisions when he needed to.
Yeah, and there we saw a little piece of the celebration in the car. Let's take a look at what has to be one of the most epic victory lane walks in IndyCar history.
This has got to be the longest celebration in Indy 500 history. We get the fence climb, obviously, but Helio was on a huge one after this victory, but also a first victory as well for Meyer Shank Racing. Michael Shank there climbing the fence, and emotional scenes with Michael. But we also got it where it was a popular win amongst all the drivers. The fact that Helio was greeted by just about every driver on the grid, the fact that he actually was blessed by Mario and got to drink that milk.
I'm still confused on that little blessing thing there, but I respect the heck out of it. Those guys are pretty legendary human beings. And I mean,
it's legit. Being blessed by Mario is pretty legit, isn't it?
Yep. I mean, he would call me names at dinner the week before, so I thought that was so cool as well. And I get it, but it was something that I think we never thought it would happen. Like, I didn't really think so. I was like, yeah, he's got 3. There's no way he's going to get 4. Like, he's kind of jumping around between teams now, and he's doing different stuff, and sports car guy. But yeah, I mean, when Helio's got the car, I mean, the guy delivers. So it was incredible to see. And Mike Shank is such a great dude too. I really like Michael Shank a lot. One day he did put me in his LMP2 car many, many years ago when I didn't really have a lot going on, just for a test day, just for a low-key test day. And I'll always appreciate that, which was really, really cool. So happy for him, happy for that team. Because there's actually a lot of great – I know a lot of those guys on that team, and they're a great group of people. So really, really happy for them for sure.
Really enjoyed that race. One of the fastest in history, Lawrence? The
fastest ever, yeah. 190.690 miles an hour, so completely shatters the previous 2013 mark of 187. So, and I guess we've got to discuss our scores at this point.
Oh. I screenshotted my picks as well before the race just so I could remember.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's take a look at how we did.
Well, it was a huge week. Conor basically not only leading the Indy 500 for 40 laps, but completely outscored us, picking Helio amongst his lineup. We didn't do so badly, but the winner, NTT KG Racing, the overall guy, actually picked the top 4 finishers. That's what separates the pros from us guys.
Conor, you definitely smoked us. And interestingly, I think you're the only one of the 3 of us who did not pick Conor Daly, right?
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to pick that guy. He didn't seem like he was going to come through on results. But I tell you what, who delivered for me, my buddy Sage Karam. That's our guy right there. I knew he was going to have a good race. Sadly, Scott Dixon, my anchor, really didn't do a lot for us. But everyone else I felt good about.
Lawrence, what does that mean for us in the overall?
Oh, sorry, Jen.
Go ahead with the overall.
No, we're not losing too much ground to the big guns. past the psychological 1,000-point barrier. The team we shall not name is only 330 points ahead of us. So, you know, we can still see the dust.
And yeah, somebody else get some points for Detroit out there, so we don't have to say that name again.
I love that. I respect the heck out of that person. Detroit, let's go.
Well, as we look ahead to our return to road course racing in Detroit, this week's guest has had an impressive start to the season, qualifying second in St. Pete and finishing fourth there. It's feeling like he's about ready for a big breakout weekend. Jack Harvey, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Jack, so Detroit this weekend, after the performance in St. Pete on the street course and the way this Meyer Shank Racing team has really come of age this year, with you obviously being such a big part of the growth. Second street course of the year. You haven't raced there before, but just give us your thoughts and prospects for the weekend.
I mean, I'm hopeful it's going to be a good one, mate. Honestly, I think the thing that everyone keeps saying about Detroit is how bumpy it is. I think a lot of the street circuits we actually go to are kind of smooth, so maybe that's going to take a little getting used to again. But it just seems like such an epic track. It's one that everyone talks about as being a favorite. I have been there. I just haven't raced there. So doubleheader weekends always are super important. I mean, everyone knows that. And I don't have like a real original quote, that you can't get the INDYCAR press release and just read through that everyone's excited to get going. And, I think coming off the back of May, the team has a lot of good momentum. I think it was a month for us of potential. We hope that we can just share that this weekend.
I have a bit of a question about what it was like to actually have Helio as your teammate, because he was with Penske for so many years, and no one ever tells anything about what happens at Penske, and Joseph never says anything, and none of those guys say what it's like to have certain guys as their teammate, but like that guy's obviously a legend. What was it like having him? I mean, because you guys were both quick during the month of May, without a doubt. There was a lot of people who thought for a while you had the fastest car, and you were like, Jack's going to be the guy, and I know you guys were strong. So what was it like having him in the engineering office?
To be honest, mate, he brought everything that you think he might bring to the table with his experience, his demeanor, his enthusiasm. I mean, I think you used the word that I would describe him as well, as a gentleman. He's actually just a super, super nice guy who's extremely quick at Indy. He just completely gets it. He knows how the car should feel. And one of the things I admired about Helio the most was when it wasn't what he wanted, there wasn't any conversation about, well, it might be maybe just this. It was, no, we're not doing that anymore. Let's change direction. And I think that was one of the biggest things I learned from him, was just this no, in a very polite way, but there's no nonsense. It's not working anymore. This isn't the right path. Let's go down a different route. So he is great. He just understands the strategy. I mean, I don't know how many 500s he's done. Is it 20 plus now at this point?
So many.
He just gets it. And I mean, even I thought during the week of practice, I thought maybe he had a slightly better race car than we did. I thought we had a slightly better qualifying car than him. But ultimately, it was, a little, cat and mouse in that department. And I mean, at one part of the race, I was hanging off the back of the train that he was ahead of, going like 211 while everyone was just saving fuel, I guess.
Yeah, that was my fault. Sorry.
And,
I was at the front in the leanest map, just driving around.
Yeah, and I was like, what is going on here? And it's just funny because then we had one bad stop, and just that takes you out. But I think Helio on that day, and everybody on the 06 car from Meyer Shank Racing, just showed you what you need to do to win the 500. And it was have, good consistent stops all day. He's a wily old fox, that guy. And when you watch the race back, I mean, he definitely overtook Alex, at the right time, and especially coming into that traffic. He looks like a seasoned pro, because he is. But yeah, I mean, he just brought so much to the table.
We've got Indy out of the way now. We've got that sort of week to week changing from road course to oval to road course to oval. We've now got this summer run where we're basically it's street and road courses all the way through to the second stop at Indy. is this the point of the year where you can really start getting the momentum and start getting into a rhythm and really show what you think you can show at this point?
I mean, I feel like we've been showing that most of this season in general, really. So, you know, we had a good run going at Texas in both races. You know, we showed pace at Indy, we showed pace on the road course, we were quick in St. Pete. You know, so no, I guess I don't feel like this is exactly the moment that is more favourable to us, because we've been, you know, strong on all three different types of track that the NTT IndyCar Series has to offer. That being said, obviously I'd be lying if I said that road courses and street circuits aren't my bread and butter. You know, it's what I've spent my whole life, you know, racing on. Ovals are I'm still learning them. You know, I'm still getting used to them in some way, but you know, we have some speed on them now. So kind of a tough one to answer, because you look at this little stretch and you would almost can't help but say, you know, we need to make that bit count. But also we've been doing, I think, a good job throughout the whole season already. Maybe not with the great end result that we feel like we could have had. You know, and optimistically, I'm hoping that stops at Indy, but now starts again in Detroit, and then we can get on a little run. But I feel like there's definitely momentum within the team. So I hope it's good. One of the things we all talk about is the competitiveness of the series this year, and you know, missing it by a little bit is, you know, hundredths of a second at the minute. And there's been a couple of times where we've just got into, you know, probably been, you know, like P10 or whatever at the end of, you know, the first qualifying, and you know, half of 10th puts you 13th and not progressing. But then when you get in the top 12, then I mean, it's all to play for. So it makes it fun, it makes it exciting. It hurts on the days you miss it by a tiny bit, because it really is just a tiny margin. But it's also a great year to be part of the series, because if you have a good result, you know you've done it in good company.
Conor, you've got a pretty good... You haven't raced at Detroit the last couple of times, but you've actually got a second place finish at Detroit. You've got some good chops there. Is it just a case for you just pick it up as muscle memory this weekend?
I certainly hope so. It feels like it's been almost half a decade since I've been there, but it's a fun track for me. I think, like Jack, you will like it for sure. It's very, very bumpy. It's not St. Pete. But I think for some reason, Detroit always presents really interesting strategic moves, you know, really different, weather conditions. I mean, I think that's that track is probably the track that I've driven the most in the rain in my IndyCar career. You know, my rookie year in the gold shiny Aero wagon was all in the wet the entire weekend long. It was, you know, it's such a crazy place. So I'm excited. The forecast, there is some rain in the forecast, so who knows? I don't know when that's going to happen or where. But I'm prepared for anything in Detroit. And, you know, for me, would love to take home a couple trophies in the old Tahoe since I'm driving up there. But we really need it for the points, because I know that you know, we've had a really tough start to the year. So it would be nice to kind of get some momentum going here. And yeah, I think it's a great track for racing, and we should be able to put on a great show.
Well, speaking of points, I hear that you are a fantasy football winner, Jack. So I think competing in this series, I think you can make some good recommendations also for IndyCar Fantasy League. So what we need you to do is to recommend your 4 team drivers and your best bets for a podium this weekend.
I'm actually very curious to see what happens here. I can't wait to see who you choose. Remember, though, it's a budget system. So, like, you can't just pick, like, a bunch of, you know, all you guys in your cool Andretti cars and Shank cars, and you can't do that. This has got to be like, you got to pick some underdogs.
Okay. I wish I had my sheet next to me. When I do fantasy football, I mean, it's like being in a war room. You know, I've got everything spread out. Like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't dare come off of my Safari and open up my email and get it. But I think when I looked at it the other day, I can't help but pick myself. Sorry, I don't know if that's frowned upon here.
No, it's good. Pick yourself, yes.
I would pick you too. I'm picking you as well. Yeah.
I think Ryan Hunter-Reay, when I looked at it, he seemed like really good value for money this weekend because he goes well in Detroit. Noticed that. He was one of my picks this weekend. I mean, you kind of can't even. I mean, I wouldn't. Dixon. How do you not pick him? You know,
fair. That's
at that
fair.
point, I don't know how much budget I got left. If anyone can do the math on it quick, because I can't open up my other sheet.
You've got enough for an underdog. You can maybe pick a Jimmy Johnson at this point.
Oh, all right. We'll take Scott out of the equation then. So I'm going going to go Ryan. I feel like Graham goes pretty well in Detroit.
Yep.
I'm still not sure how much budget I've got left.
That's all right. Just make a random pick.
Joseph. Can I afford Joseph?
Probably not.
I'll tell you a couple of bang per buck ones. Conor is only $22.
Oh,
and also Romain Grosjean as well, only 22.
Conor, they've done you dirty there.
Look, it's pretty.
I did see you had that resort in Detroit. You can be my pick. I believe in you.
If you had to pick
if a few things go differently for you, then I mean you're right there. So that'll be my lineup. I'm gonna go me, Ryan, Graham, Conor.
Nice.
Love that.
That sounds good.
I feel like I'm even within budget.
I mean,
you may have a couple of dollars left over.
The next question is, do you keep that team for day one and race day two, or do you change it up for race two?
No, I keep my team. Believe in my guys.
Oh, all right. Let's go. Let's have ourselves a weekend here.
All right. Very solid suggestions, Jack. Appreciate the recommendations. And from a fantasy league winner, I mean, we have to take these ones very seriously. I'm going to let this inform
racing and the NFL, a little different. But maybe I'm just the luckiest in my league. I don't know, but I did win $500. So I mean, there's that.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. Have a great weekend in Detroit.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
See you up there.
And Lauren, so it's a doubleheader, but we're back to regular picks for the fantasy league, right? We departed and did a little bit something different for the 500. Tell us what we're up for.
Yeah, we're back to keeping it simple. It's 4 drivers. It's $100. Pick a team for each of the races. So the prices of the drivers will stay the same through the course of the weekend. So you get 2 teams. If you do a jack and keep them the same for both races, fine. But I know that, Conor, I know that you like to tamper for the second race. So that is completely good too. So a few recommendations from Racer. We're starting with a bit of a French connection. Sébastien Bourdais has got a great record at Detroit. He's a double winner, and as we saw in St. Pete as well, the one place I think where the Foyt cars are really clicking is on the street circuits. We were also recommended Roman as well. Okay, it's not like the type of track where he excelled at Indy, but the fact that the guy's actually got an IndyCar street course under his belt already, and just expect something potentially quite special from Roman on his return. Couple of other guys, I think a couple of familiar faces here. Jack and Conor, it makes total sense. Jack, obviously the St. Pete form, the fact that he's really been putting in some good shows over the season, but it's the same thing with Conor as well. You look back at the month of May, and Conor and ECR really unlocked something in that car on the street course at Indy, at the road course at Indy, and I think carrying that momentum through, I'm expecting a big weekend from Conor. Conor.
I appreciate that.
Couple of other guys, habitual contender at Detroit. Graham Rahal, not only has he got a couple of wins and an absolute shed load of podiums, but the guy seems to be potentially permanently locked into the top 10. He's got a bit of momentum, and he's also trying to make up a little bit of ground in the championship after the Indy 500. Will Power as well. Since his championship season in 2014, he has been on an absolute tear in Detroit. Two wins, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. And again, another guy who's looking just to piece together a really big weekend to keep in that championship conversation.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when you look at it this weekend. For us as a team, you know, as you mentioned, we do have a lot of great momentum going, and I think Renus has been really fast everywhere as well. But this is one of the tracks that we haven't been to as a group yet. You know, I mean, I've driven for this team for a year in 2020, but that was a very small amount of events. And there are several tracks this year that we will still, you know, that we're going to later on in the year that we have yet to go to as a group. So we don't have that experience together. And Detroit being one of them. So so a lot of the tracks that we've been to already, like we kind of knew, okay, here's where we were last year, and we improved on it to come back this year. And so Detroit, like, it makes you a little nervous. You're like, all right, well, what kind of situation do we got? But we were on the simulator yesterday in Charlotte, and I think there's a lot of good things that we're kind of continuing to develop on, from what we found at the Indy GP. So I'm very excited. It's one of my favorite tracks. And honestly, even if you don't have a great car, I started 18th like the year that I finished second, I think. And, we made the right call. And again, battled Bourdais for the win. And Bourdais is definitely, I think, someone who I wouldn't have picked so far this year because they've had a really tough year. But I think that is a good value and a good pick for this weekend. And I mean, I'm just going to roll right into my picks already because I like the Bourdais suggestion. I think it's hard to take Graham Rahal out of the equation here. I mean, he won both races at one point one year. And I'm excited for Jack too. I think Jack is going to be very good, but I'm the type of guy who's going to pick a completely different lineup in race 2. Just because, like, why not? Right. I think there are a few guys that, like, I would pick myself for race 2 rather than race 1 because I know how, as we develop and as we gain more information, we're potentially in a better spot to take advantage of that for race 2. So I think there's going to be a couple guys like that, like Jack. I don't know if I'm going to pick Jack for race 1, but probably race 2. You know what I mean? And there's a couple guys like Palou as well. Palou, maybe not race 1, but race 2. Whereas race 1, I think you stack with the experienced guys. You go Graham, Power, or Joseph. And just, I mean, I don't know, on budget, probably Bourdais, you know what I mean? So, like, there's a couple guys that I would pick experienced veterans day 1 and maybe a couple, the younger guys, young rookies race 2.
All right. Well, so Conor has committed to his picks. Lawrence, we're going to ask you to do the same. What are you thinking?
Well, Conor's put in some compelling caveats about holding off on Jack and Conor until race 2, but we've dived straight in and check out the. We've broken the no Conor rule. We have included Conor, we've included Jack, and Conor as you said as well. Graham and Will. 2 guys who basically live in that. Those top spots at Detroit. So sorry about putting the pressure on you, Conor, but hey, you've got the momentum, and that's our race 1 lineup.
Love it.
Very nice. There you have it. Thanks very much for sharing your recommendations, both of you. And a special thank you to Jack Harvey for joining us as well. Make sure you sign up for the IndyCar Series Fantasy Challenge driven by Firestone. Join the world's fastest fantasy sports league. It's fun and it's free, fantasy.indycar.com, or sign up via the IndyCar app. We will be back next Thursday for another episode of INDYCAR Debrief on racer.com. But before then, be sure to tune in this weekend for an action-packed doubleheader weekend. Watch it all live, the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix. Friday, June 11th, 5 to 6:15 p.m. practice on Peacock. On Saturday, 11 a.m. to noon, qualifying race 1 on NBC Sportsnet and Peacock. From 2 to 4, race 1, that's live on NBC. And on Sunday, we're back at it 9 to 10 for qualifying and noon to 3 p.m. back on NBC. For Conor, Lawrence, and myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Racer channel on YouTube, or find us wherever you get your podcasts.